I light this candle in the name of my own transformation. And I sacrifice some of my hair to tie this ritual to me. Om. 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 Hail the gods. Now, my brothers and sisters, I will reveal in this video whether I am of the right-hand path or left-hand path. But if you know me well, this really isn't a question. Now, let us discuss what the right-hand path and the left-hand path is. Now, these are my own definitions for the right-hand path and the left-hand path. These are not ones that I've gotten from somewhere else. So, the right-hand path, one who seeks to establish order and connection, preserving and creating harmony for others and oneself. And then usually in the right-hand path, people believe in some form of karma. In Wicca, it's a rule of 3. Whatever you send out into the world will come back at you 3 times as intense. My definition for the left-hand path is one who seeks to draw upon sources of power in order to gain it for oneself, with the ultimate goal of becoming more powerful than others. And now usually in the left-hand path, there is not a belief in karma, but in creating one's own destiny and the forces that control one's destiny. Now, in the right-hand path in Kabbalism, which is, you can call it Jewish mysticism, but it's very much more occult than you might think. There's a lot of occult and magical practices based on Kabbalah and the different dimensions therein, the different paths therein. Now, the tree of life in Kabbalah exemplifies the right-hand path. It is the means by which one can delve within oneself and attune to different dimensions and create a continuing enlightenment until one reaches the source. Now, in the opposite, in the left-hand path, there is the tree of Quithoth. And this tree is the tree of, a lot of people call it the tree of death. And it is the tree of descending. And at the bottom is Lilith. And it's often called the tree of power by people who travel that path. The tree of becoming more than the confines of this world. In either path, that's what they believe. But there are 2 very different methods upon traversing the limitations of the human body. Now, I am in between. I exist in a realm between the right and left-hand paths. These 2 sides that are the extremes in the definitions that I gave. There exists many people in the middle, but I view myself as being more central than even most people that are somewhere in the gray area. I am an agent of order who practices between these 2 extremes of day and night, not simply preserving the world, but gaining power to push back its destruction for as long as possible, like Odin forestalling Ragnarok. And my mission is very much like Odin's. I know that this material realm will be destroyed, that it will end, but I intend to push it back for as long as possible, so that the souls herein will be able to make as much progress as possible before the entire material universe and the universes around it come back to a central point, before another day, that is, you could call it creation, you can call it a new day of Brahma, extends out. And whatever progress you make along the path, here, now, in this material universe, will come about in your existence in a similar point in the next universe, when a new day of Brahma, when a new creation comes about. You will have maintained that level of progression spiritually. And societally, it just doesn't have any bearing. It's all spiritual progress. That is the ultimate. That is the ultimate thing that feeds into where you'll end up in the next day, and the next and the next. If we don't reach the source before then. Now, there are many left-hand pathers who do not believe that there is an ultimate source we are working towards. That there is no definition other than the various gods who are mortals like us who have gained enough power to become gods. There are right-hand pathers that believe, ceremonial magical practitioners, many people call them, but I don't really identify them as such. There's many right-hand pathers that believe that it's just a cycle of rebirth that happens again and again and again, and that there is no source to meld back into as well. So I differ between myself and many left-hand pathers and many right-hand pathers. Now, in order to allow you to get a better picture of the kind of person that I am, I'm going to use an example in fiction. Now, this is an example in fiction that may sound laughable at face value, but when you really think about it, it makes sense as far as identifying who I am, but I don't really consider the fiction to be true. It's just a helpful aid if you wish to use it. A useful example of my path in fiction is the Grey Jedi in Star Wars lore. Now, the Grey Jedi, they have a code that is in between the code of the Jedi and the Sith. This code is still working for order, like I do, still establishing harmony, but using both, the light side and the dark side of the Force, which is very Taoistic, or even goes back to Taoism, before Taoism. That's where a lot of the ideas in Star Wars, or light side and dark side, come from. But the Grey Jedi are the ones who do work for order, similar to me, but use the power on the dark side. They don't use it to the excess to where they're controlled by it, or they propagate it, but they use it to accomplish their goal, and just as I do. Now, Odin is very much like this. He will push back Ragnarok by any means necessary. And this is very similar to my own mission. This is my own mission, I should say. Now, we may have our various implements. We may have our various rituals. But I find that in the right-hand path, there is more stagnation. There isn't a willingness to become free in ritual, to make up your own, and to really get down to the grassroots of dealing with your own spiritual force and not the spiritual force that others have mustered in the past. This is a problem in the right-hand path. Ceremonial magic does not progress and does not evolve in the way that this kind of freedom exists in the left-hand path. In the right-hand path, all the rituals are laid down, and you have to move in the right direction. You have to say the right word in the right way. You have to use the right implements. And if you don't, then the entire ritual is useless. But when it comes to my own practice, I use a variety of different sources for my rituals. Some of them are very left-hand path. Some of the demonic rituals that I've studied, or even satanic rituals that I've studied, I don't call out or try to contact the same beings, but there are elements that I use to contact the higher beings that I work with. And now the beings that I work with are purely on the side of order, of course, but a lot of them seem like they aren't. I'm aware of the abyssal current, how powerful it is, and that in the astral realm, which we're just below, or kind of in, if you want to put it that way, the astral realm was very much where these powers are manifested visibly. The material realm is the in-between place to where it's very hard to see. It's very hard to conjure up for the average person to see. But you will get the effects of magic in this realm, believe me. But there are two sides to the astral realm. One is the expansive freedom of the good side of the astral realm, to where you have worked your way away from materialism. You've worked your way from selfish ego, and you have become a being who is working towards ultimate enlightenment and the benefit of all things. Then there's the other side of the astral realm, the abyssal side, where either you are suffering greatly and you have fallen into a depraved state to such an extent that you are only clinging on to certain sensations and emotions, or you've gained enough power to actually carry weight in the abyssal realm, to actually be like a god in the abyssal realm, which is very possible. But you have to be a certain kind of god, and that's not a very good kind of god compared to even the average man's morals nowadays. And I don't mean Abrahamic morals. I'm just talking about being nice to people in general morals. You won't be an abyssal god unless you are completely selfish. And once you gain that power, you have to fight to keep it, because there is only loyalty as far as you have the power. There is no mercy in the abyssal realm, the abyssal side of the astral realm. And then the causal realm above that is where there's no differentiation. Everything really feels like one. And then spirit beyond creation, the source, is above that. But regardless, I would like to say a few more points on the right and left-hand paths. Most people who identify as being on the left-hand path are still very relatable and compassionate, especially compared to the average person. Now, what I found in dealing with many people on the left-hand path is that none of them really seemed evil in the traditional sense, or even in my sense. They just seemed like they wanted to learn more and be more controlled, being able to control more in their lives, rather than being controlled by the circumstances they find themselves in. I don't think most left-hand pathers really realize the extent of negative abyssal force that is behind many of the beings they work with, or even if they don't work with beings in general, black magic. Since there is no real belief in karma for most left-hand pathers, there's this constant lashback of the things that they do. And I see that in their lives. I see in many left-hand pathers that I know, I see how their actions comes to bite them in the back. And they don't really seem to realize it. I'm not saying this for all people who travel the left-hand path, but they don't seem to realize it. And then they say, okay, well, I did this wrong, or I did that wrong, or, oh, that being is just trying to teach me something, which is very similar to a lot of right-hand pathers, by the way. Oh, I'm just being taught something. Or they try to justify and make their path crystalline in virtue in their own sense of the word. But there's a lot of this wavering of trying to justify themselves, whether it be on the left-hand path or right-hand path. But I see people constantly kick themselves in the ass and then say a source of the cause that just wasn't the cause. Now, like I said before, the freedom of ritual, breeds creativity in the left-hand path. I use many shamanic rituals. I use blood magic. I use white magic, black magic, a little bit of black magic. I communicate with beings that some people may view as negative. But the gods that I work with, my two patrons, the Divine Mother Kalima, first and foremost, and Odin, they are seen by many as being evil. But if you actually know these beings, these gods, you will see how much they are on the side of order, how much they are on the side of light, how much they are on the side of compassion for the multiverse, and have no interest in themselves. It's purely to maintain this existence that we have so that we can learn as much as possible. And they're trying to teach us as much as possible. And it's unfortunate that there isn't more communication between right and left-hand path on the two extremes, because there's this constant quibbling between the two extremes, and in recent years there's been more communication, but there's no lifeline between the two, and I try to be the lifeline between the two, because I talk to people who deal with purely considered positive gods, and they only do rituals that are prescribed, and they have gurus that tell them exactly what to do, and they practice only white magic or only Wicca, and Wicca is not, it's not even left-hand path. So people who think witchcraft is left-hand path, it's just not. Especially when you consider somebody who calls himself a white witch. On the left-hand path, I see a lot of people in reverse. They don't really have a guiding star beside their own whims. Their own whims kind of guide their path, and they don't have an overarching mission beyond gaining more power, and that's also disappointing. So there's a lot of friction between the two sides, and I find myself like directly in between, but still an agent of order. So in conclusion, I'm not right or left hand path, but I am an agent of order. So many would call me a right hand pather. Um, I officially reveal myself as an agent of order. Whatever you want to justify that as, whatever you want to say it is. Um, I want order to exist so that people can learn as much as possible before another night. And then, when another day comes, when more billions of years are put before us in a new creation, and a new, really, the source becomes everything. It doesn't create, it's not a separate entity. Um, then we'll be in a better spot than before to along the path to complete unification with the source. So I just want to give people as much time as possible. I want to help them, and I have a very much an interest in helping other people rather than making myself more powerful. But I do gain power. Don't get me wrong, I do gain power. I gain power so that I can accomplish my mission. And I hope that you understand your own mission. And I hope that you define a mission for yourself. And that you do what is necessary to accomplish that mission, no matter what side you're on. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been informative. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot it down in the comment section below. On YouTube, if you want to contact me on Facebook, feel free to friend me at www.facebook.com/hunter.salazar. And as long as you're polite to me, I will message with you on Facebook Messenger. But feel free to friend me on Facebook if you so wish. And finally, my my Patreon page, which has not gained very much attention, but is a place where you can support the work that I do and show your appreciation. For just $1 a month, you get a little bit extra content, a few things that I write, plus notification about my YouTube videos. I share all my YouTube videos on there, and there are some videos on there that you will not get on YouTube. So if you want to follow me on Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/darkrealist, capital D, capital R. And if you go there and become my patron, donate $1 a month, and you let me know, I will be very grateful, and I will, of course, listen to video suggestions that you have. There's not a lot that I'm asking when it comes to Patreon, just $1 a month, 25 cents a week. So, in conclusion, thank you very much for watching. I hope that all of you find yourselves, come to understand your paths, and all of you have a wonderful day.